Hi Year 10. So today you will learn how developments in new technologies and products can have either positive or negative impacts on the environment. So can you turn to this page in your booklet and start writing down the learning objective. So pause the video here, write down the learning objective. Okay, so for today we're going to need to know two keywords. The first one is for, but for us the definition is the presence in or introduction into the environment of a substance which has harm. Means through manufacturing and production we either use materials that are toxic by burning those fossil fuels for energy to create products. They release harmful chemicals into the atmosphere. Is global warming. So this comes as an effect of pollution, and it's the gradual increase in the overall temperature of the Earth, generally due to greenhouse effect. So greenhouse gases includes methane, CO2, and that traps in the UV radiation that comes from the sun. It traps it in our atmosphere temperature. So lots of people contribute the huge increase all over the globe, and this is due to a massive increase in the population and a massive increase in everyone happy and alive and living well. We need to create lots of products. That means that we are having to use a lot more fossil fuels, warming. But technology does not have to be the villain in this story. Actually help us save our own planet. And this is a really great video which really clearly explains it could be used in future to save our planet instead of it being the villain and the reason why our they are absolutely fantastic. They do podcasts, they do videos, loads of them are on YouTube. There's a TED talk of virtually anything rather than the villain of our story. So we're going to watch this video first.
Hi and good afternoon, everyone. Can you guess what it is? We have all heard that we will need several, but one planet is enough. Technology can save the planet. Let's look at computer is a very good guess. Wrong. It is a stone axe. When the first stone axe was created 3 million years ago, it was a huge revolution. It enabled that in turn make their brain bigger and more powerful, which led to even better was an embryo. The first step on our road from apes to all kinds of technology. Actually, technology and biology share the same origin. There were nothing else than natural elements without life on the earth in the beginning. From these natural millions and millions of years. This all happened thanks to the biological evolution. The technological evolution. First the stone axe, the wheel, the bicycle, and so on. All kind of technology from medical to IT evolution. By the way, do you know what dinosaurs and typewriters have in common? The competing animals and competing technology took over. The phone has evolved a lot since it was invented and survived so far. Our ancestors evolved as well. Holding a phone, for example. So, what has this to do with our ecological harmony with nature when their only technology was some simple stone tools? But our nature. We have always been fighting it one way or another. Nature is so much more than just foods. Malaria, earthquakes, tsunamis, and much more. Machines, all kind of technologies. However, environmental problems are not ozone hole, for example. That was caused by freon gases used products. But we managed to come up with a solution. We developed better technology, a substitute for the bad freon gases. Environmental problems have always been solved by technology, not by less consumption. Enormous use of natural resources. And that is true. However, I'm still an optimist. There is a clear direction towards using less resources, less materials in products. Of material in a laptop has dropped drastically over time. If the weight was 100% when the laptop was introduced to market, it's now only a few percent. The car, it is the same trend. And the driving force behind this is that all companies in the world want to manufacture because that is how they can make more profit. And this is without any political interference. And the same goes for energy. And 95% during the latest decades. Isn't that amazing? This is how we should lower consumption in the world. It is not by taking fewer showers. We should live a normal life and allow the techno-evolution to do its job. Giving products and less consumption also slows down the evolution towards cheaper. The world can afford a mobile phone, and that is fantastic because that's saving natural resources. It's also saving a lot of human lives. So, what about global price gap with coal power? And because of that, India has now cancelled several coal power. And the more solar power is installed, the more prices will drop. So, extremely important because use of energy accounts for most of our emissions on electric cars. They are still expensive, yes, but price further product development and thanks to the coming mass production. Many are used when producing an e-car today, but that will also change. If you don't believe me, happen to the use of material and its battery. So, why shouldn't something solutions? They are like dinosaurs. If they can't adapt, they die. Let's put it this way. We would need several planets to support our lifestyle and consumption. But we don't need to go back to a simple lifestyle. The Stone Axe is not coming back.
Okay, so that video gives you quite a lot of food for thought, and we've probably not heard people talk type of way before, and developed a new technology is actually saving the planet rather than our dependence on technology being a hindrance to the planet. So if we boil it down to the basics, he's basically saying that without the evolution of technology, our current technology will always stay the same and it will not improve, and therefore it will not. But with more effort put into the development into these technologies, our current technologies, then hopefully eventually we'll get to a stage where the technologies are a lot better for our environment and actually reduces the amount of pollution and reduces the impacts of global warming so that we can start healing. From this point on, we're going to start taking some notes down in our booklet in the little the text box for your keywords. So in the middle, you've got this, which is new and emerging technologies impacts on the environment. What quite close to that middle one, and start writing down the 6 subheadings for this. Say positive impact, technologies that have a negative impact, pollution, efficient working, global warming. Pause the video here, write down those headings, and then press play when you are ready. Okay, fantastic. If you're watching this, that means you've written those 6 subheadings down of this slide to begin with. And we need to think about how technologies can have positive impacts. For technologies to have a positive impact on the environment, they have to be doing certain things in order to... So the first one of these is that they should only use renewable materials. So non-renewable resources. Renewable resources and materials are those that can be replaced or The second point is that they use renewable energy to power the production of products. Important. So if we're using renewable energy like solar power, wind power, we are investing quite up of these energy production techniques in manufacturing, but once they're there, so after the initial setup, it's a very cheap source for the manufacturers. So if they do that, they are saving money in the long term, but they are also reducing. So that's a really key one to jot down. The third one is that they should be using recyclable materials. So in the production of any product, if you want to be a manufacturing company that create products, you need to be using materials that either have been recycled or can be life cycle. So once the product breaks, the product should be able to be dismantled and then its different parts be reused for something else. The fourth part is that designing products. So this ties in with the one above it. So if we are designing products that can be dismantled and recycled, they are products that are more sustainable. They have a less negative impact on the environment and reused, which means that we don't have to continually extract new raw materials from the earth. And finally, if technologies and manufacturing companies want to have a more positive impact, with fewer components that have less weight. This basically means the lighter the product, the less material, which means 2 things. You're spending less money on materials, which means you have a higher profit margin, and that are extracted from the earth. And extraction of raw materials from the earth releases a lot of chemicals into the air to do that. So pause the video here, make sure you've got those 5 bullet points down for this strand of your mind map. Manufacturing companies that use technologies that have negative impacts on the environment, these renewable non-recyclable materials. So that's those resources and materials that cannot be replaced once they are extracted. You cannot regrow it, you cannot replace it with more because there is a finite amount, there's a very limited. Secondly, they often make things that use many components that are hard to repair or recycle. This is really bad for the environment because it means that those products are so difficult to recycle, different parts that need to be taken apart and disassembled to the point that it's virtually impossible to sift and separate all the materials that have been used into the different types to be able to be recycled. So that just can't happen when you have. The one positive of that for the companies is that can share it, which means they have to go out and buy a new one. So that's our greedy working there, us trying to get as much money from consumers by not giving them a product with longevity, a product that will cheaply to someone, which will break, so that they have to buy another one and then another one and then another one to power the manufacture. So we've learned about fossil fuels being a non-renewable resource. It generates a huge amount of energy for the small amount that is burnt. It's easily accessible because the sourcing the fossil fuels and extracting them from the earth is ingrained in it, and it's very, very efficient, so it makes the fossil fuels a lot cheaper. So that's the main reason why manufacturing companies use fossil fuels, but it's not good for the environment. Finally, component manufacturing company in the UK, making and selling, I don't know, a controller for an Xbox. So in the UK, they might not actually make any of the individual parts of the individual components from China, 20% from America, and the rest from other countries. Components have to be put onto planes or ship liners and transported to the UK, and then put onto those components to the manufacturing site, where they just put them together. So that is cheaper because they have lower wage costs, and they have less legal restrictions on their components from other countries really cheaply, and just assemble products in the UK and then still call it a UK made product. Runs on fossil fuels, which emits lots of harmful chemicals into the atmosphere. We'll move on. Lovely. So our next one is continuous improvement. We're going to be looking at all the negative parts of new and emerging technologies and manufacturing, and start looking at how companies changing the way they work and manufacture to reduce their impacts on the environment. So continuous Japan. This has been a philosophy that has been part of the Japanese culture and only in the last few decades has the Western world kind of adopted this and started using it in manufacture. Continually making small adjustments, so small changes to production techniques in order to improve the speed, quality using. So it's all about looking back at what you've just done and saying, oh, can I change any part of that quicker to make the quality of my work better? Or can I do anything to reduce the amount of materials I'm using to create this, creating your work in order to make positive changes? So I mentioned that Kaizen, roughly translated, means change good. So change is good. If we change with a focus on improving something, then that is Kaizen, and that is continuous improvement. Information down before you press play and carry on. Fantastic. So we're going to do on the same slide. So the first one is efficient working. This is not to be misconstrued because efficient working is when companies decide to work, lay out their business, lay out the manufacturing of products in an efficient way. And there's different speed of production to reduce waste and to reduce errors. Now think in your heads, what have we learned previously in terms of manufacturing that does all three of these things? Technically, the advantages of a type of manufacturing technique. Automation or robotics, then you are correct. So all of those things, to be efficient, increasing speed, reducing waste and reducing errors, that can all be done by utilising automation and robotics in manufacture. So using computer programs to control these robots to make things for us, rather than ingrained and an ingrained error process, because we are not perfect as human beings. We continually make errors in our work. So by using robotics, we reduce the amount of waste we create, and the speed is a lot faster than using just manual labor. And finally, you could control checks. And that's not just at the end of the production line. That's not just at the end. They'll look at, say, bottle openers. They won't just wait until one of them's made, have a look at it, see if it works. Every single stage of the production line to make sure that each part is working at top efficiency. And then we're going to move forward. Lovely. So, final bit of information. So, pollution. We're back to the negative things again, unfortunately. So, pollution is basically substances are released into the natural environment. So, when we burn fossil fuels, when we use toxic materials, things into the atmosphere, into our air, into our water, into the ground, that doesn't harms the natural environment around it. So this can, in manufacturing, this can occur through processing materials. So that means when you've extracted the raw material from the ground, we have to process that into a workable material that we can make products from. That is a hugely energy to refine and process materials into a working state. So that is the direct and indirectly through the energy that is used when actually manufacturing a product, and through the product's life. Needs a battery source or a power source, say your Xbox, whatever number is, but the newest Xbox, that's going to run, it will only work when it's plugged in, when it's using electricity. The energy companies are burning fossil fuels. They are burning coal, they're burning natural gas in order to create this energy Xbox in your TV and to charge your iPhone. So that is indirect causes of pollution. Then we need to talk about global warming. So global warming increases increased amounts of carbon dioxide being released into our atmosphere. So carbon dioxide is what is released when we burn fossil fuels. All manufacturing companies depend on fossil fuels for their energy, but a larger proportion do. And that means that production of anything that we use and we buy, clear productor of carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases like methane. So when those chemicals are in the atmosphere, what it does, it kind of creates this oven effect. So when through into our atmosphere, it comes down onto the Earth's surface, it reflects off the Earth's surface, and in a perfect environment, this huge layer of greenhouse gases surrounding the Earth in our atmosphere, what happens is quite a lot of that, the UV radiation that is meant to go back out into space, is actually reflected back to the Earth, harmful gases in the air. And that creates a increased warming effect and and that leads to the ice caps melting and lower crop yield once fertile land is exposed to more extreme weather conditions. And then you're going to consolidate your learning through doing some exam style questions. Awesome. So final step, everybody. So can you turn to the back of your booklets where you've got your exam style questions section, where you've got all that lined paper printed at the back. What I would like you to do is start working through 1, 2 and 5 are testing you on knowledge that you've learned prior to today. But questions 2 and 3, questions 3 and 4 are aimed at testing the knowledge that you've gained in today's lesson. So I would suggest writing down the question and then answering it, so that once we've gone through the answers and your corrections, as a really solid piece of revision material. So I look forward to seeing you